All right, welcome everybody. I am your co-host Mouse, and this is the Goblins Within with Stephen Myler. So we're gonna ask Steve some questions here, okay? All right. Do we want to go back to you? Let's go back to you, Steve.
I'll take care of that. Ask away.
This is an original. This is an original Stephen Myler right here.
Oh, we need to spotlight you. No, we'll do that in a minute. All right, ask away.
All right, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like your upbringing, your family, hobbies, whatever. Lay it on us.
Well, my family, most of which seem to be connected right now, which is great, is I grew up in a very religious household, and I have four siblings, one sister and three brothers, and it was very busy. And we actually had a very strong musical background. It's a very important part of our heritage, and I began college in music school, actually. And years later now, I have gone through a career in IT and come full circle to going, hey, you know what, I really still want to teach. And so I ended up teaching art. Or I want to teach art. I'm getting there. Got to finish my degree, but I'm a father of three. I've got three boys upstairs listening right now, and my wife Stephanie, who have been supporting me through college and helping me out as much as they can, and I appreciate them for it.
Cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your art background then?
Okay, well, I actually, when I started going to school, I knew that I wanted to teach in some capacity, and I kind of figured out that I was done with the musical career, so I looked into teaching degrees for secondary ed, and I'm embarrassed to say that art was what seemed like the easiest path, and I decided to do that rather than try to pursue a different one. And so as I began taking art classes to fulfill the needs for that degree, I realized I enjoyed it way more than I had thought I would. And now I've gotten to the point where I decided to be selfish, and I'm going to pursue art. And I am finishing my degree at Truckee Meadows Community College in Reno. And this art show is actually part of finishing that degree. And then I'll be going on to the Bachelor of Fine Arts program at UNR very soon. And once I complete that, I haven't given up on my teaching ideals, but I think it'll open up more doors for me having the extra artistic experience in there. And so I want to be able to do both.
Okay, very good. So what is some of the research that you do for your art?
Research. Well, the art in this show that I'm presenting is very much based on my family, myself and my three boys. And my wife does not like to be photographed, so I tend to stay away from including her in the art that I've been doing. But many people think that artists just see something and then draw it and paint it. Well, because I didn't have that background in art growing up, and I wasn't that kid that sat in the back of the classroom and just drew, I had to learn this the hard way. And so the way I do things is I use photographic reference and life reference, and I draw from those things. And once I do that, when I go to paint, I put that on a canvas, and then I paint the canvas. So there's a lot of steps involved. And so in this particular series, I've used myself and my boys because I have access to them, for one. and they're my little goblins at the house, and they're very mischievous, and so it inspired me to do something about that specifically.
But your wife's not a goblin, right?
Only when she wants to be.
All right. So what is your Arctic inspiration, and what has influenced you?
My artistic inspiration, I think Todd Lockwood has got to be one of my biggest
Nice.
inspirations as far as art goes. And I'll actually pull him up some of his work here for
I was
everybody.
gonna say, if you don't have any, I've got a whole shelf full of it here.
But he's one of the original Dungeons and Dragons creators of their artwork at Wizards of the Coast. And yeah, he's in the D&D manuals, everything. And so I'm gonna share my my desktop here and just pull up some of the things that he's done.
Yeah,
this guy right here, one of my favorite pieces that he's done. It's actually called, I think it's Path to Exile is the name of the magic card that's on. And of course, this is his website. He has lots of just very dynamic poses and characters that he does. And being a nerd, growing up as a geek, and liking playing Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons has inspired me to pursue fantasy art. And I would love one day to have my art on a Magic card or in a D&D manual. I think that would be really neat to be able to share something with a lot of people. And I think it's important as far as art goes, especially now during this pandemic when people are really struggling to try and share some levity and brighten people's day, even if it isn't direct, if it's just through an image that they enjoy. It's if somebody liked something that I did, then I've done my job.
So you seem to kind of pursue a fantasy aspect. Is that like, what are some of the themes that you pursue in your art?
Well, as the show is Goblins Within, I do tend to gravitate towards monsters that are more whimsical and silly, and I've always liked the lore behind things like goblins, elves, goblins specifically. In a lot of the lore out there, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, Danish, English, or British folklore, they tend to be very mischievous creatures, not having a lot of care for what's around them. They have a lot of baser instincts that we all have as human beings. And I try to use fantasy art as a vessel to show aspects of the human condition and sort of share my own feelings through an image.
Very nice, very nice. You mentioned Todd Lockwood. I'm a fan of Lockwood as well. What is your favorite artwork by others? And do you have like a particular piece that's really your favorite?
I gotta say, when it comes to my favorite artwork, it's hard to place it on one. My favorite artist, I would say, would be Artemisia Gentileschi. She's a Baroque artist from the Baroque period, just after the Renaissance, and her her art focuses on very dramatic lighting, using tenebrism and chiaroscuro, and we'll share something from her real quick here. Didn't expect to see her, so I'll pull up an image of hers.
If it's not broke, why fix it?
Yes, I have heard that joke many times. It's one of my father's favorite music jokes. So let me share. No, not Acrobat. Share. Okay. So I'm pulling up Artemisia here. At least I thought it was. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
Artemisia Gentileschi. This is actually one of my favorite paintings. This is of her. And if you look closely, you can see there's this little icon around her neck. And what this means is the way she's drawn herself is as the icon of painting. That was very popular during the Baroque period. Artists would portray women as sort of a muse of a particular ideal, and she was the first person to use herself as that. And she shows off, how she has kind of disheveled hair like an artist would be expected. So she's the representation of art. And she has some really beautiful work. And probably her most famous piece is that of Judith slaying Holofernes. It's from the Bible. And this has been done by Caravaggio, who's one of the other great painters from that period. And in his painting, you don't see, there's literally like strings of yarn for blood in his painting. But in hers, she put Judith in an active role, actually slaying this biblical figure, trying to save the Jewish people. And so she just, her lighting is just so incredibly dynamic. Her backgrounds are very dark. And the reason I'm sharing these is because it translates to fantasy art pretty directly. There's a lot of dramatic lighting, dramatic poses. It's all character work. It's not biblical, but it is very related.
So you mentioned that you do want to eventually teach. So what is professionally, what is your goal professionally?
First, I just want somebody to buy my art. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm finishing my degree at TMCC, my second degree there actually, but this one's in art. The other one's just a general ed degree. I'm going to go to UNR, and from there, I'm leaving my possibilities open, because as a career goal, I would like to have my art available to a company like Wizards of the Coast or Blizzard to sell through them, or just make it on my own. But honestly, I know that I'm going to have my own job, and so I'm doing as much as I can to gain all the skills I can and make myself marketable. I'm open to working in a museum. I'm open to teaching. We'll just see where this wild ride takes me.
So in your repertoire there, what is your most important artist tool? And it doesn't have to be something physically necessarily, but
my most important artist tool, sleep. No.
Hey, that's a good one actually.
No, I honestly, support from people around me has been the best tool.
Nice.
Because of my background, I'm not nearly as confident as a lot of artists.
This is where you say your wife.
And I often need encouragement, and thankfully my wife and my other family have been pretty encouraging, and they have shown their appreciation of the art pieces I've done. Without further ado, though, I'd like to share the artwork. So let's get that going.
What is your, yeah, there we go. Cool.
Alrighty. So the name of my show is Goblinz Within. And
why is it named Goblinz Within?
Why is it named that? Well, as I previously mentioned, we all have tendencies as humans to do things that might be on our mind, that, or at least we're tempted to do things that might be on our mind that we wouldn't normally do. And goblins, they have no filter. They do what they're thinking when they think it. And so I felt like, as it relates to us and relates to myself and my own children, we all have our own little goblins inside urging us to do things that we probably shouldn't do. So I have the show up at Comic Kingdom here in Reno, Nevada. And I just wanted to show everybody, what I have on display right now briefly before I get into each piece. And of course, we have my name up in lights down there. And then there's a piece and our artist statement up in the store. As you can see, the books included around the store. It's very much a part of the community I'm trying to capture. And these are some of my smaller works, along with my featured piece for the entire series. And we've got everything here together. And they were nice enough over at Comic Kingdom to give me a full wall there behind the D&D books. I spent a lot of time taking down posters before I put this up. It was very appreciative of their inclusion. And I just wanted to show that this really is part of a store that caters to us nerds in this photograph here. But the first piece I started working on, well, not the first piece, but the first one I started working on this semester was this guy right here. And I was just thinking about how just mischief in general, and I was like, how do I display that in an art piece? So I went and I made this little guy here. It's just a cave, and it's got a sign, "No humans," spelled badly, and it's got some skulls there in the mouth of the cave. It's a very small piece. It's only 11 by 14. If you look back here, it's down below that very large piece on the right. Yeah, do you have any questions about this?
What do you want us as the viewers to feel when we look at your different artwork up there?
Included. My goal as I'm learning to be a better artist is to draw the viewer in so they feel like they're part of the picture, or they're at least part of the action. This actually is a continuation. This is called Goblin Gaze, and if you look in there, you got this little green goblin on the last slide, way back in the cave. Well, this is him. And the word gaze has a lot of weight in the art world. You have the first video I was forced to watch in Women in Art was about the male gaze, and it was talking about how we gaze at artwork and how some artwork gazes back at us. Where does the viewer look? Where does the person in the art look? And so this guy, he's gazing directly at a fairy's bum. And so, the real question is, what's going to happen next? What kind of hijinks is he going to get up to? And so, of course, the next slide is the result of that. And I called this one Snack. So, and I specifically tried to change the lighting to make it look like when the fairy was bit into, it was dimmer, because she is the light source in the original. We'll going to continue here. The next piece, this is based off my son Joshua. Both of these characters are. We actually climbed up on his bunk bed and I took pictures of him, and he had a toy in his mouth that resembled a knife a bit. And so I took that and made a line drawing, put it on the canvas, and started painting it. This is one of the smaller ones, 11 by 14. So you probably are all seeing it in way more detail than you would in real life. But I don't know. I really love the way he was looking at me when I took the picture, and I tried to feature his gaze on everyone. And of course, after that, we have my next painting, which I actually did first, but these are the same goblins, also based off of Joshua, and they are ready to strike on this poor adventurer, looking into a treasure box, which is the real trap.
You know, I think they've actually done that to me. I feel like that guy right there.
Yeah, my boys like to torture you quite often. But yeah, I really had a lot of fun doing this one. This is a much larger one. It's 24 by 30. And I did this over last summer and tried to get that little reflection in the pool below of the goblin creeping up above, and kind of raise those questions of, oh, what's going to happen next? The figure at the very bottom, my son Timmy actually posed for, and I made him an old woman. He doesn't look like an old woman, of course, but speaking of him, this is Treasure Thief. Delving into that temptation aspect of the characters, this guy obviously he sees something he really likes, and he is enamored by it and wants to steal it, clearly.
That looks like him opening his Christmas gift.
In the reference photo, I didn't have anything that resembled a giant ruby, obviously. So we put it up on our chess table, and we took Baby Yoda, also known as Grogu now, and we put him on the chess table, and Timmy was reaching for him. What was that?
I said spoilers. You just threw out Grogu.
Hey, if they haven't seen it by now, then they're not a geek. Just kidding.
Don't be a toxic fan. Timmy, is that you with your ramen?
Ramen.
Like
Timmy doesn't like ramen. All right, so we'll go next here. This piece is a larger version of that same character, and he's got that ruby in his backpack there, and he's running away from the ogre. And I just zoomed in to give you guys an idea of scale. In a picture of the ogre's face and his nasty, big, pointy teeth.
I've got a dentist for him.
And then here's my second to last piece. We have, I called it Goblin Safety Expert. And obviously an ironic title, but he's lighting dynamite with a torch. He's got grenades on his chest. He's got, powder barrels behind him. Clearly something bad's about to happen. And, a goblin doesn't tend to think about things like that. So that's why he's the safety expert.
That reminds me of like one of my friends in my college years, man.
Yeah. Was his name Mouse?
Yeah.
This is the feature piece for the show. It's my final one. I actually did this about mid-semester. The last one I really did was the goblin with the goblin thief there. But this guy, this was I took a photo of my son Ian up at Castle Rock in Tahoe, and he was sitting up on this rock with the sky behind him, and I had him hold this little marble we had just as something to view, but the way the marble looked, it just came out really beautiful. And I was especially proud of this one. It just came out so good. And I love where I'm from. I love Tahoe. I love Reno. And I think this really encapsulates the Nevada sky. Even though that sky is completely made up. But out here in Nevada, we've all seen the beautiful skies in the evening, and we're familiar with them. And I think I drew from that experience to, be inspired for this. And just, I see them every day. It's not something I have to use a photograph to invent. But that's the complete presentation of all my work. I'm going to stop the sharing here.
Cool. Well, let me rifle off a couple of last questions here, and then I guess we can open it up if anybody wants to have any questions or comments. So what would be your ultimate dream project? Okay, what would be your dream project? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think that, honestly, to be able to make anything permanent, if it were something in the city of Reno or another city, I have not started studying sculpture yet, but it is one of those eventual goals that I would love to have something that, regular people see every day. And so even if, any art that you can get people to see every day, I think is an admirable goal. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, we'd be happy to have people in the chat. Go ahead and ask a question, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability.
Let's go ahead and open it up. We have a question from Sarah. Let's see, Miss Sarah Phillips, who she is, but it says here, are there prices for any of these? Yeah,
actually. So, and being a newer artist, it's hard to price your own work, but I have to put into account size, materials, and time. So the smaller paintings are only 80. I wanted those to be a little more accessible, and then the larger 24 by 30s are $300. They take a lot of materials, and I use high quality paints, and so they can be a little bit more expensive, but hopefully I can get those kind of prices. I see my Uncle Doug Myler, he had a question. He's asking how many more semesters will I have to study at the university. About 2 years is what I'm looking at, another 2 years. I think it may be a little longer than that, but hopefully I can get it in a timely manner. COVID has definitely made things go slower.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. So you've had to do a lot of this online, virtually, right?
Yeah, I mean, here we are. I mean, there's no champagne and roses tonight, and finger sandwiches, etc. But yes, I will ship. My sister asked.
Hey, what would you say to other artists out there that have a little bit of trouble finding inspiration?
Just draw. Enjoy drawing. The more you draw, the better your practice gets, the better you get. That's really all it is. I mean, I came into this thinking, you know what, all these other people have all this experience. They've been drawing since they were 4 years old or whatever. And I'm not saying I'm amazing, but I've gotten to the point where I feel like I'm able to do quality work, and it's just taken practice. And the more I do it, the better I get. I didn't see. Were there any other questions in there? Appreciate people saying they're proud of me. I need it. I found that not only myself, but most artists are very self-conscious. So
No.
congratulate them. Let them know that they're doing good work.
Give them praise.
It's
Lots
hard.
of praise. Artists are very self-destructive too.
Oh, and my professor, Rosita Todorova, she just chimed in. She says, "What am I going to do next?" And she always has loaded questions for me. So thank you for that. But as far as next goes for artwork, Christmas is coming, so I can't give a lot of things. My wife wants me to cook dinner. But I would love to go and I want to learn oil painting a lot better. That's one major thing that's been a problem with COVID, is that because of the limited space and some of my classes having been online, when I took painting and painting one, I was not able to learn oil painting, at least not properly. And so that was a bit of an issue. And oil paints tend to blend more easily because they don't dry as fast. I think acrylic paints are beautiful. In some ways they're easier to work with, and you don't have to have as many chemicals. But the oil paints really, they really blend so much better. And I want to get into that more. So that's what's next on the docket. Eve asked me what my favorite brand of acrylic paints are, and I have a bunch just sitting here. And I don't know if this is suggested for other people, but I use Liquitex Professional. That is the heavy body acrylic. Got some unbleached titanium here. Use that for a base for a lot of colors. It's awesome for pastels. Blend it with any color and you've got a pastel.
Are you a fan of Bob Ross?
Am I a fan of Bob Ross? Bob Ross sometimes in the art world can get a bad rap, and because he does very simple work. But as an artist, we all have appreciation of what he's done. And he had to be a good artist. And the reason is he took a lot of he took a lot of his experience in learning to paint, and he simplified painting down so far that there's no way he didn't have a lot of talent, because he was able to take that and translate it to regular people so that they could learn how to paint. And he has made that major contribution to society as a whole. I mean, art is something we should all enjoy, and if you want to learn how to paint, you should learn how to paint, and he's a great place to start. I personally, I love watching his videos.
Yeah.
Sometimes for ideas, but mostly
videos ever.
It's the most relaxing thing ever, and you get to see him have a pet chipmunk on occasion, which is just hilarious and weird. But
do you when you're doing your art, do you feel relaxed or do you feel kind of rushed when you do it?
Yes. Really, when it comes to art, I mean, you need to have like a goal of when to get it done. And so one thing about this show is it's given me a deadline. It's forced me to do more artwork. I wanted to do even more, and I didn't quite get it in on the deadline. So I have what I have, and I enjoy what I have, and I'm really glad that some of them are just done. It is work, it's not just Zen time all the time. Sometimes I get to have that, but as I'm going through school, I got to learn to be faster and get things done on time and have a regimen.
You've got deadlines, right?
Well, I think that about concludes it for everybody. I know Eve's enjoying the saber fight going on behind my wife. But thank you all for coming out. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice.
So once again, why don't you go ahead and throw it out there? It's at Comic Kingdom, right?
Yeah, my show's at Comic Kingdom in Reno. And if you want to purchase any artwork, you can email me at stephenmylerart@gmail. And I'm going to put that in the chat here. And you can inquire about purchasing any of it. And yeah, I'd love to sell it. I'll even do prints. Some of them, I got a good enough quality paintings or pictures that I can do some prints. So if you're interested, I can do that. I don't have a price point on that at the moment. So thank you all. Have a good night.